small things have followed my family for as long as I can remember. Not just creaks in the floor or flickering lights. I'm talking bruises, scratches, objects flying through the air, that kind of dark. It wasn't just one house either. Every home we lived in had something wrong, but the one I'm about to tell you about, that one, it was different. It was personal. I was about 14 when things got really bad for my mom. She started waking up with bite marks, scratches, bruises she couldn't explain. Doctors kept saying it was her diabetes or her epilepsy, but none of it added up. She could barely walk. She was bedridden most days. One night, something was thrown at her while she was asleep. Hard. I remember the look in her eyes, like she wasn't even scared anymore, just tired. Then the police came. Thought my dad had hurt her, but he never would. Ever. Eventually, we brought a medium into the house. He walked in like he already knew what was waiting, sat down, closed his eyes, and that's when all the lights flickered at the same time. He said a dark entity had attached itself to her. A tall, black figure. A man, with a veil over his face. My mom burst into tears. That's exactly who she'd seen standing at the foot of her bed. Then in 2012, my sister passed away. It broke my mom in ways I can't describe. But after that, the attacks slowed down, almost like whatever was hurting her backed off. She still believes my sister is protecting her. The violence stopped, but the house never felt clean. Fast forward a few years. I was 21. Everyone was asleep. I've always been a night owl. Something about how quiet everything feels. Peaceful. Like the world pauses after midnight. I was playing video games. Got a bit hungry. Paused the game and stood up. But I felt weird. Like something was watching me. Not just watching. Expecting something. I shrugged it off, patted my cat on the head, and opened the door. Our hallway stretched straight ahead to a staircase. We had just painted the stairs white a few days ago. They used to be brown, now they were ghostly pale. Each of the steps creaked beneath me. I was trying so hard to be quiet. Didn't want to wake anyone. I opened the door to the living room. Big space, on the left. The door to the basement, straight ahead. The kitchen and garden door, right side. Couches, TV, pretty normal. I started making a chicken sandwich, but that weird feeling came back. Stronger this time, like the air itself was pushing down on me. All the lights were on, nothing out of place. But my skin felt cold, and I couldn't explain why. I grabbed my sandwich, turned around, and then the fear hit. Sudden, violent, like it was shoved into my chest. I panicked, slammed the light switch off, shut the door, and then I heard it. A scream, not distant, not muffled. It was inside the house. A woman's scream, high, drawn out, almost like a wail. Like someone was standing right there in the living room, screaming for help. I froze. My whole body just stopped working, and then I ran. I flew up those stairs like something was chasing me. I waited, heart racing, but the house, silent again. And the strangest part, no one else heard it. Not a single person, just me. 2 weeks passed. Then we got the news. My mom's aunt had passed away, peacefully. Old age. Was that scream a warning? A farewell? Or something darker? I still don't know. But that night, it's burned into my mind. I'll never forget it. Even now, things still happen. Whispers, shadows, feelings you can't shake. But nothing ever screamed again. Sometimes, silence is worse. They say the past never really stays buried, especially when it was never given a proper place to rest. I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood, one of those places that looks normal enough on the outside, but hides its stories beneath layers of silence. We were just a few streets away from an old railway station, the kind with a history no one liked to talk about. Word had it, the station was built right on top of a Native American burial ground. No removals, no rituals, just concrete and steel, laid straight over the dead. And if you believe what people say, that kind of disturbance never goes unanswered. One night, our neighbors, the ones who lived at the end of the court, came over shaking. Their dogs had been barking uncontrollably toward their backyard gate, thinking it might be a coyote or someone trying to break in. They went outside to check, but what they found wasn't human. Standing dead still in the far corner, where the fence met the house, was a towering man. But not just any man. This figure had no head, no features, no face. Just a black void where a neck should have connected to something, frozen in fear. They grabbed their dogs and sprinted back inside, locked the doors. Didn't sleep a minute that night. I overheard my parents whispering about it, and I was fascinated, even as a kid. Skeptical, curious, brave, maybe. But all that changed one night. I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. We lived in a single-story house with a long, narrow hallway that ran from the living room to the garage. My sister and I slept at the end of that hallway, our rooms facing each other. I remember the way the hallway light would flicker. I remember the chill that never left that part of the house. And I remember that night, crystal clear. I was lying in bed. It was a white iron daybed, classic 90s. The door to my room was open, like always, and I was facing it, trying to drift asleep. That's when I saw him, something crawling, coming around the right corner of my doorway. Fast, way too fast. A pale, grayish little boy, naked, on all fours. He skittered into my room like a spider, too fast for comfort, straight toward my bed, and just before reaching it, he vanished. I froze, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, just stared into the dark, and then he popped up, right beside my bed, face level with mine, eyes locked, cold, dead, empty. And then he raised his arms and shoved me hard. I curled from the pain and fear, crying, trembling, every inch of my body locked in terror. And when I dared to look over the edge of the bed, he was gone. I never saw him again, not in that house, not in any house after. But even now, years later, that moment, the color of his skin, the sound of him crawling, the cold shove in my stomach, I remember it all perfectly, and I can't help but wonder, was he from the burial ground? A lost soul trapped beneath concrete? Or was he something else? Something worse? It happened 12 years ago, late summer. I was 17, and way too used to staying up late the night before school. Living in a wooded valley, far from city lights, silence came easy, except for the rustle of trees or the occasional coyote. We weren't completely isolated, but close enough that you couldn't see another house unless you hiked through the forest. My stepdad and I ran a small wood shop out there, built furniture for out-of-state clients, the kind of folks who wanted handcrafted butcher blocks, wine racks, but not the type you'd find living near us. We had big dogs to guard our chickens. My mom, though, she loved her Pomeranian zippy fluff-covered, utterly useless furballs, and like clockwork, I always got stuck taking them outside, usually around 2 a.m. That night felt like any other, warm, quiet. The porch light buzzed faintly above me as I clipped the leashes on. I wasn't quiet. Those stairs creaked with every step. I even tossed out a few sleepy insults wrapped in baby talk. Come on, you furry little shit machines. But when we hit the top of the stairs, the dogs didn't move. Not an inch. I gave the leash a tug. Nothing. Just tension in the line. Both of them were stuck, ears pinned back, staring into the yard. Not barking, not whining, just dead still. I looked where they were looking, and that's when I saw it. At first I thought it was a person, a naked man, standing in the middle of our driveway, right under the floodlight by the shop, lit up plain as day. But something was wrong. No hairs, no ears, just smooth, pale skin, almost blue, like something that had been underwater too long, and it was moving slowly, wringing its hands, looking into the forest, not at me. I had made noise, loud and clumsy noise, but it didn't seem to notice, or maybe it didn't care. The more I stared, the more wrong it became. Its torso was shaped weird, like an animal's, long, skinny, front to back like a wet cat or a shaved dog. Not starved, just built wrong. No ears, no hair, no sound. And then I saw the legs. God, the legs. They bent the wrong way. I should have run, but instead, I stepped off the last stair, and the second my foot hit the ground, it straightened up, fast, like a deer catching scent. Its back snapped, upright, alert, frozen, then gone, not running, not vanishing into the woods, just gone, like it had never been there. And the dogs, right back to normal, trotting down the stairs like nothing had happened, tail wags and nose to gravel. I let them do their business quick, real quick. I called it the Bunnyman, not because it was funny, but because the way it moved, the way its legs bent, it reminded me of a rabbit, tense, skittish, inhuman. I never saw it again, but I still think about it. Sometimes when it's late, and the woods are quiet, I wonder if it's still out there, watching, waiting. I've always loved the Halloween season. The crisp bite in the air, the smell of pumpkin pie baking, and the yards filled with fake cobwebs and glowing skeletons. That year, our family took it up a notch. My dad bought a projector that played Halloween videos. It was wild. This thing could display creepy animations right on our walls. Laughing pumpkins, dancing skeletons, classic ghosts, and zombies. But one video stood out more than the rest. The ghost bride. She floated on the wall in a white wedding dress, pale, hollow-eyed. At first, she simply hovered, making this slow, eerie motion with her hand, like she was telling you to come closer. Then, she'd glide across the wall, start crying, and eventually, she'd scream loud. We couldn't get the projector aimed at our front window. The blinds were too big. So instead, we aimed it at an empty wall in the living room. Every night leading up to Halloween, my dad would ask me to turn it on before bed. That night was no different. I turned on the projector, saw the familiar flickering images, and headed off to bed. Everything felt normal, until around 2:30 or maybe 3 a.m. That's when I noticed it, a soft white light flickering down the hallway. I blinked, not thinking much of it, But then it grew brighter and brighter. Curious, and honestly, a little unsettled, I turned my head, and that's when I saw it. A glowing white shape moved silently across my door frame. It looked like a dress, a wedding dress. I slowly got out of bed. My knees felt weak. I crept to the doorway and peeked into the hall, and she was there. The ghost bride. Not on the wall, not in the video, but standing in my hallway. Her skin was gray and cold looking. Her eyes were sunken and dark. She turned her head slowly and looked directly at me. Then, just like in the video, she raised her hand and made that same motion, telling me to come closer. I couldn't move. My entire body locked up, and then panic kicked in. I dove back into bed, pulled the covers over my head, and just waited. I don't know how long I laid there. 5 minutes? 10 minutes? An hour? But eventually, I got brave enough to look. She was gone. Still shaking, I crept out of my room and walked down the hallway. I peeked into the living room. The projector was off, not paused, not frozen, unplugged. I didn't touch it. I didn't unplug anything. And my parents, when I asked the next morning, swore they hadn't either. Years later, my grandma moved in with us. She gave me her Halloween projector. The same exact model. Said she remembered how much I used to love it. And now, it's sitting in my room. Right now. Sometimes I wonder, what would happen if I plugged it in? Would the ghost bride come back? Or was it something tied only to that one night, with that one projector? I've thought about testing it, but honestly, I'm not sure I want to find out. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, I was the kind of kid who hated the dark. Not just afraid of it, hated it. The kind of fear that makes your chest tighten, that makes you sleep with the blanket over your head, even when you're sweating. I used to beg my parents to let me fall asleep with my little TV on. Just the soft glow, the low hum of background noise. It helped silence the things I thought might be out there. But they never liked that. They'd lecture me about the power bill, or how I'd ruined the TV. Sometimes, they'd even come in late at night, without any warning, just to turn it off. Eventually, I started setting the sleep timer myself. It felt like a compromise, a safe middle ground. One night felt like any other. I had just finished watching a bunch of creepy videos on YouTube. Ghost stories, the kind that crawl into your brain. One was from that old Top 15 channel about haunted places and spirits that follow people home. But weirdly, I didn't feel scared. Not yet. I laid in the dark. The TV clicked off. The room went silent. And then, I saw it. A faint red light glowing in the hallway. At first, I thought maybe it's car headlights. But no. Car lights are white, sometimes yellow, never red. I crept out of bed, bare feet on cold carpet, and I peeked into the hallway. That's when I saw her, an old woman, standing still, holding a small red candle. She wasn't blurry. She wasn't see-through. She was just there. She looked exactly like one of the figures from the video I'd watched earlier that night. Same face, same crooked back, same candle. I slammed myself back into bed, pulled the covers up, stared at the door, didn't move, didn't breathe, afraid that if I blinked, she'd be right there. Time passed. I don't know how long, minutes, hours, but I couldn't take it anymore. I had to move. I slipped out. This time, I ran to my older brother's room. Quiet, quiet, and quiet. I peeked into the hallway again. She was still there, But now, she was in the living room, facing away from me, just standing there, like she was waiting for something. I knocked on my brother's door, begged him to let me sleep in his room. He told me no, but his girlfriend, she said yes. I hurried in, but right before I shut the door, I looked back. She was gone. No footsteps, no sound, no trace. Just gone. I still don't know if it was just my imagination, or if the red candle lady really stepped out of that video and into my home. You're watching Night Whispers. Subscribe and hit the bell button if you're brave enough to face what Night Whispers drags back from the dark. Do you have a terrifying true story or a spiritual encounter you'll never forget? Email me. Link is in the description. And when you're done listening, tell me in the comments, did it haunt you too?